We had a long conversation about traveller culture and the role of women. Afterwards he said, "Rosaleen, you could go to college. You could get educated." I nodded. And that's how it started.
When I think back to the first time I was in Trinity studying for my undergraduate degree, I think back to that first journey through Front Arch, and I didn't realise then how incredible the next 4 years were going to be.
I remember my first day, the lecture starting. There was no, let's go around the class and say our name. If that was school, this was college.
One night to be complete, one night to speed up.
It started in 1992. They hadn't had a deaf student before. At that time I was profoundly deaf, and at that time there was absolutely no disability service here. Really no advice, no support, no nothing. I think the first week I realised I was in trouble. I wasn't going to be able to follow the lectures, and I didn't even use sign language at the time. During the placement as well, just to bring up the confidence. Spent a year learning the sign language, and the same year trying to find funding for a sign language interpreter. Got the funding kind of 2 years later, but it was brilliant. Like, my grades just shot up. I had full access through sign language, and graduated first in my class. And almost, sometimes when they go out on placement.
I started working here in 2000. I was taken on to set up a service for students with disabilities. Trinity was the last college to have a formal service. It was a greenfield site in one way, but it also was that we were able to learn from all of the lessons from the other colleges. We carried out a full access audit of the university when the Disability Act came in 2005, so we looked at what were the priorities to tackle in relation to access. The cobblestone pathway in Front Square, there's a pathway going to be made accessible through the square, which symbolically will be an important thing, because as you think of this place you always think of cobblestones, and anybody who's walked across it or has a buggy or is disabled will know that it's not the most pleasant journey. It's important to send out a message to people that actually we want you to come in here. There's a lot of people out there who need support, and the college is well able and equipped to deal with the issues now, so we have a very diverse community here. We sent out a note to all of the students who graduated and said that we were looking to develop a book that would be inspirational for students thinking about coming to Trinity College, and if they were interested in sharing some stories with us about their experiences, good, bad or indifferent. We got an amazing response from people, and the stories are just so wide and varied that it's going to be a very interesting book. I think it's going to be encouraging for anybody, parents or kids with disabilities thinking about college, that, I can't do that because of a disability. But these stories are all about, I can do this.
So we're straight into the lecture, lights go off, and we can see the PowerPoint. How was I supposed to be able to lip read in the dark? It may as well have been a French lecture. It just continued like this, and I just started hating college. If I talked to my disability officer, I might have been able to overcome some of these issues. Instead, I dropped out, thinking the course was too hard and I would switch to something else next year. The following year, I started physiotherapy. I felt I knew what to expect and was a bit more prepared this time. Most of all, I was willing to accept the support I needed.
Trinity and the people in Trinity have always supported me, whether it was getting back on my feet after I went blind, or helping me to write my book, or start my own speaking business, or even preparing to race in rowing or the Gobi Desert or to the South Pole. I suppose by now it might be obvious that I'm a Trinity fan, but I think I've got good reason to be.
My writing ability was non-existent. Even my vocabulary was very limited, and that had nothing to do with my speech impediment. But people were patient with me, regardless of how often I failed. Trinity has been kind to me. My mother, before she died, frequently used to say, "I'm so glad you went to that college in the middle of the town. It made you into a grand, decent woman."
Finally.